Hello everyone, good morning. Today is 5th of April. My name is Sahil and welcome to the newspaper analysis. So guys, in the today's video, we are going to discuss the entire analysis of the Hindu newspaper. Now before starting up, first of all, take the overview of the newspaper and after that we will be taking up the detailed articles. Now, the first of all, we can see here the page number 1 in the Hindu newspaper. The Pakistan Supreme Court promises a reasonable order. So we see now that in the Pakistan political crisis is going on where the Prime Minister of the Pakistan has has dissolved the parliament there and has called for the fresh elections. Okay, the matter has reached the Supreme Court. Fine, you don't need to go into the detail in such kind of thing. Then moving on to the opposition rejects Gotabaya's offer. Okay, now all these articles are not relevant for the examination. You don't need to go into the detail in this. Then in the city section, regional issues, fine advertisements, etc. Such kind of things have been given. Fine, and so finally we will be reaching to the editorial page. Now on the editorial page, the first article, the road to Ukraine peace runs through Delhi. Okay, so basically we have seen that so many of the articles onto the Russia Ukraine peace, how this Russia Ukraine matter will be unfolding have come. Now see, all these particular matters will basically, whatever the commentaries are coming here will not make any sense, okay, if the matter goes otherwise. So we will not be going in everyday article. We'll see that how finally the matter will be going, and on that particular takeaway we need to make our notes. So every day's commentary is neither relevant nor you need to see. Please don't read such articles every day. Fine. Moreover, next the policy needle forward on migrant support. Now this particular article is talking that how the migrant policy in India has not been able to had not been able to address the migrant challenges. We'll see this what has been provided in this article. Then the side article, the game for the thrones. Okay, for the throne. Now this article is talking about the political crisis going in Pakistan with respect to exam. Not important article. Then guys, a pause to reflect. So what had happened recently, the WHO has provided that the co-vaccine that is being exported need to be kept on a pause. Why? Because there have been some kind of irregularities, some kind of a problems in the production of this particular vaccine. So it has been said that this is something that India should be deeply concerned about. Okay, however guys, the vaccine and all these things are very much kind of a transitional things. Fine, I'll not recommend you that you should go too much in detail in this particular article. Then tampering with the constitution in Pakistan. So again, the Pakistan's internal political crisis. Okay, the better early than late. So this article is talking about the autism and how the early intervention in the autism can help to provide the meaningful remedy. Good article, we'll see this thing. Then Twitter governance in Telangana. So guys, just you we can see just only a small concept here that what has happened. Now many of the state governments as well as many of the ministries at the level of union also are moving to the Twitter to provide the resolution to the citizens problems. Now in the Telangana, the Twitter governance is being carried out where the much of the people's the problems with respect to the health, social, civic issues, they are being solved through the complaints that are being raised by the Twitter. This happens to be a very good model. Fine, so this is just the concept that is there. Apart from that, the internal matters of the Telangana has been discussed in this article. Okay, then moving on, we have this text and the context page. The first article is India Australia trade agreement. We'll see that what this particular trade agreement is all about. A partial rollback of the Armed Forces Special Powers Act. So guys, this particular article we have seen yesterday in the 4th of April newspaper that the rollback of AFSPA has happened into the three states of the northeast. So again the same thing has been repeated. Now the caste hierarchies and the migration patterns. So guys, this particular article, it is a kind basically it is analyzing a article published into the EPW with respect to how the different caste and their migration impacts each other. We'll see this article. Then moving on, J&K delimitation panel starts talks, faces protest in Jammu. Okay, so on to the delimitation. Fine. Now what the delimitation is? Delimitation is fixing the constituencies for the purpose of election. Now when the constituencies were delimited last time, it was said that much preference has been given to the Jammu rather than the Kashmir. Okay, so this kind of thing became a kind of a political controversy. Okay, so basically it's the same thing is continuing here. No need for laws to enforce the duties on citizens. Okay, we'll see this article what it is talking about it. Plea in Supreme Court on gender bias. Okay, then further after that, moving on, the parliament, it has been stalled because of the fuel price hike. All these things have been provided. Then further moving on, IPCC report may spell death knell for the coal based units. So the IPCC report's third part has been released. We'll see this thing. Okay, then after that, guys, further moving on, NCPCR summon ICICI bank officials. Nothing is there article with respect to our examination. Then on to the world page, Russia Ukraine crisis going on. 99% of population is breathing polluted air. WHO, it is okay. So it pollution and the contaminated air happens to be a big problem in both the developing and the developed countries. And now according to WHO, more than 99% of people are breathing the polluted air. So it is a very big problem, a matter of concern. Then on to the business page, HDFC to merge with HDFC Bank. Okay, all these things have been provided. No need to read them. Imports zoom 55% to hit $610 billion into the financial year 2022. So guys, see, a few days back we have seen that for the first time we have achieved our export target of $400 billion, but at the same time the imports have also increased. $610 billion worth of imports have been there. So guys, at the end of the day, because the imports are also increasing along with the exports, okay, at the end of the day, still the current account deficit will be high in the India. Now after that we have the sports page. Okay, so this is all about the overview of the entire newspaper. Now let's discuss all these articles one by one in the detail. Now starting up, so first we'll be taking the GS quote for today. So today we'll be taking the quote from Justin Trudeau. Now he says that the diversity is the engine of invention. It generates creativity that enriches the world. So diversity has been called as a moving force. Diversity is something which provides the motion to the invention. More the diversity, more the differences are there, it gives more scope to the different thinking, and the different thinking evokes the creativity, and the creativity brings innovation enriches the world. So diversity and creativity go hand in hand. We need creativity to solve the many challenges, and for that the diversity happens to be a part and parcel. So guys, a very good quote, we can use it in GS paper number 1 social issues. GS paper number 1 social issues related to the diversity. Now moving on to the first article. So guys, the first article we have taken from the text and the context section. It is talking about the India-Australia trade agreement. This particular article will be important with respect to the GS paper number 2. Okay, FTA's free trade agreement. Even there will be the implication of the GS paper number 3, Indian economy. Now first of all, I'll tell you a little bit of the background of this particular development. See guys, basically the free trade agreement, it is an agreement between the two countries where the countries come in a deal that we will not be discriminating between each other's goods. For example, this is country A, this is country B. Now the country A is exporting certain goods to the country B. So usually what happens, the country B will charge certain import tariffs onto the goods that are coming from the outside. Now the import duties are taxes, or the import duties or the fine are actually charged on that because of two reasons. Number one, it will be providing the much needed revenue to the government, and secondly, these duties are charged so that the domestic manufacturers, they are safeguarded. Suppose sometimes what happens, there is some very cheap made good that can come in your country. In your country, the people who are making the similar kinds of good, they might not be making it that cheap. Okay, so what will happen, everybody will prefer the foreign made goods. So the Indian manufacturers, the domestic manufacturers, they will face a problem. So that in order to shield them, in order to guard them, the taxes or the duties are imposed so that that good becomes a little bit expensive in our country and the domestic manufacturers don't suffer. So the import duties are charged. But guys, when this free trade agreement is signed, what happened, both the countries, they come in a kind of an arrangement that okay, neither of them will be charging the excessive import duties and tariffs onto the goods that are being exported to both of the countries. Is it clear? So now what have happened, we have signed with the Australia such free trade agreement, and it is called as the Economic Cooperation and Trade Agreement, ECTA. Now understand this thing, that from last 10 years we are trying to sign this trade agreement with the Australia, but there were a large number of challenges that were there. Since 2011 we are trying to sign this agreement. Okay, now for the 10 years the negotiation went. Okay, it got basically it got suspended. In 2021 again the negotiation got started, and now finally it has been signed. Moreover guys, this is also very much important because this is the second free trade agreement that India had signed in this year. For earlier free trade agreement was signed with the UAE in the month of February, and now we have signed with the Australia. Now it has been said that by signing of this particular free trade agreement with the Australia, the trade between the two countries will increase to 40 to 45 billion dollar in the next 5 years. Right now the trade between the Australia and India is around 27 billion dollar. It will further enhance. Moreover, it has also been provided that over the coming years it will create over 10 lakh additional job opportunities. Okay, so it happens to be a kind of an economically significant deal that has happened. Now what will be the key features of this particular agreement? That is something we are going to see, but you don't need to go too much into the detail. Now the first, it has been provided that, see, under this particular agreement it has been provided that India will give 85% of the Australia's export zero duty access to its domestic market. So 85% of Australia's exports that were coming India, that were coming earlier into the India, or that can come, they will be provided the zero duty access. Okay, they will not be charged the customs. Then the second thing is that India is expected to give zero duty access to Australia for the next 5 years. So for the next 5 years it will be given. Moreover guys, it has also been provided that in this particular deal a much focus has been given to the dispute resolution. Now when these bilateral deals are there, obviously sometimes on certain issues some disputes, some different interpretations can emerge. Moreover, it has been provided that in order to solve this dispute, what will be there, the compulsory review of this particular mechanism will be done after 15 years of the implementation. If certain challenges are there, they will be removed. Secondly, it has been provided that by this particular agreement, what will happen, Australia will get access to export its potatoes, lentils, meat products, fine, into India. Moreover guys, it has also been provided that basically it is a very historical deal. Why? Because India is also providing the access to the Australian wines, Australian alcoholic drinks, and the non-alcoholic drinks also. See, in the past we have seen that much of the high customs and the import duties have been imposed on the on the foreign liquor, okay, in India. Why? Because in India also we have a very big industry and we need to guard them. But here in this particular deal we are providing the entry to the Australian made alcoholic and non-alcoholic drinks with minimal tariffs. This is also something that has happened. After that guys, the next thing that is coming is that basically the Australia will also provide the preferential access to the India's goods. Okay, so Indian exports will also get a boost. So the gems, jewelry, textiles, leather, footwear, furniture, food, engineering products, medical devices, automobiles, they all will get access to the Australia. And guys, all these goods happens to be the top performers into the Indian export basket. So it will be helping the Indian exports a lot. Then the next thing that is coming here is that it has been provided that for the dispute resolution between the both countries, they will only be preferring to those kind of institutions where both are members. For example, let's say if a dispute comes between the India and Australia, they will both be approaching to the WTO because both are members into the WTO. Both are very much aware about the processes that are there into the WTO. So this is something that has happened. Moreover guys, the rule of origin will also be properly implemented. Now what is the rule of origin? Rule of origin means, suppose there is, now let's say that there is Australia, there is India, and then there is Australia. The agreement is being signed between the India and Australia. So basically, let's say a good is coming from India to Australia. Now whatever the product is coming, it needs to have the rule of origin certificate. Rule of origin certificate that this good has been made in India only. It is not the case that it was made in Bangladesh, from Bangladesh it was exported to India, and from India it is coming to Australia. No, it has to be manufactured mandatorily into the India. So rule of origin certificate needs to be there. Many times it has been seen that the rule of origin certificate has been bypassed. What happens? The country first imports a cheap product from some third country and then exports it by saying that we have manufactured it. So on the rule of origin, very strict compliances will be made in this particular agreement. So these are all the details of this particular agreement as we can see it. So guys, that is all about it, and now we'll move to the next article. Caste hierarchies and migration patterns. Now this particular article is also taken from the text and the context section of the Hindu newspaper, and it will be important for our GS paper number 1, social issues, caste issues. Social issues, caste issues, important topic. Now basically guys, first of all I'll tell you that what this particular article is all about. So what has happened recently, an article was published into the EPW, that is the Economic and Political Weekly. In this, basically this particular article was a research paper. In this research paper, there have been the 3 communities in the Tamil Nadu that have been studied. Their migration patterns have been studied, and it has been found that how their migration and their migration outcomes are getting impacted because they belong to a particular caste, because they belong to a particular social group. Okay, so this is something that has been discussed in this particular article. Now much of the references to these communities specifically from Tamil Nadu has been taken in this article. You don't need to go too much into the detail. Fine, first of all we can see here that this particular research paper takes in consideration the 3 social groups. Okay, the one are the Kallars, who are the backward communities, backward caste into the Tamil Nadu. Then, but these Kallars being the backward, they are the dominant land owning caste also. They own a lot of land. Then the second community that has been discussed is the Mupanars. Now the Mupanars, these are the most backward caste. Most backward caste, and what they do, they work as an agricultural laborers onto the farms of these Kallars. Okay, fine. So they worked as laborers onto the lands owned by the Kallars, because we have said that Kallars are the land owning communities. Then the third one that have been talked about here in this particular article are the Pariyars. Now what are these Pariyars? These Pariyars are the scheduled caste communities. Okay, they are not allowed to work on the farms of the Kallars. Okay, they don't work as agricultural laborers. They are only engaged into the manual scavenging work. So these 3 communities, their migration patterns have been discussed in this particular article. Okay, now guys, basically first of all, what the certain things this article is talking about. This article says, number 1, what happens? Number 1, when the migration is to be made. Okay, in this particular migration, number 1, the backward caste, that is the Kallars, who have a lot of land, for them the migration is not a difficult thing. They can finance their own migration. Okay, they have the money, they can go and they can settle into some other place wherever they want to migrate. Migration is not a very big problem for them. Secondly guys, the most backward community that has been there, the Mupanars, for them the conditions are okay, little bit tough, but still they can also manage it. But then guys, the third type of people, the scheduled caste community, that is the Pariyars, who are there, it has been said that for them the migration is a very big challenge. Fine, number 1, to migrate to some other state, to migrate in international region, they first of all need to borrow the money from the friends, they have to sell their assets, only after that they can migrate. Moreover, it has been provided that these people, the scheduled caste, they don't have much of the connections, and because they don't have much connections, they are not able to get the good jobs. They are not able to get the good jobs. Whereas on to the another hand, these backward caste, the backward caste community, the Kallars, because they have good connections compared to the scheduled caste, they are able to get the good jobs, and because they are able to get the good jobs, they earn more salary, and they in turn also can send much more money back home also. But the scheduled caste, because they first of all are not getting good jobs, because they don't have good connections, they are also not able to send more remittances back to their home. Is it clear? So basically the remittances which are being sent by the scheduled caste, they are much lower than the remittances which are being sent by the backward caste, okay, by the backward caste such as the Kallars. Now what is the implication of all this particular thing? So guys, it has been provided that basically, so first of all, the caste identities can influence the migration pattern where you can actually go. It will influence it because you cannot afford to go to any destination when you don't have money. Secondly, it has been provided that basically the narrative from the wives of the migrants who have left behind shows that relative economic affluence of the backward caste is high in comparison to the groups from the most backward caste and the social caste. I told you this thing already that the backward caste, the Kallars, okay, they are sending a much more remittances than the scheduled caste people. So economic affluence of the Kallars who were already good, it further increases. The social divide further increases between them. Moreover, we have seen that the communities which are well off than the scheduled caste, they get good jobs, better pays and better benefits. Why? Because of their connections that have been there. After that guys, it has also been provided that basically when the overseas migration is happening, the person who is actually migrating, he is getting a relief from the caste based occupation. A person, let's say from a particular community, was compelled to do manual scavenging in his village. Now he has migrated out, he can go away from this caste based occupation. He might also be able to improve his economic position. But guys, the women, their wives, okay, they are still doing that particular work only. They are still tied with their caste based occupation when they are back home. Fine. See, the wives of the scheduled caste who have left behind, either they will not work, but not working is not an option. Why? Because the remittances that are coming, they are not that much high that those remittances can support the family. So not working is not an option. And if they want to work, the village will only be giving them work into some particular kind of job. So even after the migration of the scheduled caste people outside, their conditions at home have not been much changed. Then guys, the next thing that has been provided is that it has been provided is by that economic activities in the resident village are still governed by the caste. Already we have seen this particular thing. Then guys, the next thing is that this international migration is more advantageous to the men, okay, and women of the backward caste community. Okay, why? Because already they were socio-economically privileged. Now they are getting more benefits out of it, but the scheduled caste people, they had not got much of the benefit out of it. So this is all the takeaways from this particular articles that have been there. Much of the things are actually very much generalistic, clear. Even if you don't read this particular article, still you might be knowing large number of things that were there. Okay, so this was the EPW article that was published, which has been now featured here in the Hindu newspaper. Now we'll move to the next article. Push the policy needle forward on migrant policy. Okay, so guys, this particular article is talking about that how we need to reform the situation for the migrant people. Now this particular article will be important for GS paper number 3 labor reforms. GS paper number 3 labor reforms. Now, first of all guys, understand this particular thing that we have seen in the COVID-19 pandemic, that how the reverse migration started. And as this particular reverse migration started, there was a kind of a new catastrophe that was built. In this reverse migration, large number of people from the urban areas, they traveled back to their villages. It was an eye opener for the entire country. Because of this particular thing, government came in action and government started many of the reforms for the migrant people. For example, number one, government said that immediately they will ramp up the one nation one ration card scheme. So what is this one nation one ration card scheme? See, under the National Food Security Act, 66% of the people of country are entitled to receive the subsidized food grains. Now, many a times these migrants who are going to other areas, they are poor. They are entitled to get the subsidized food grains under NFSA. But guys, for getting the food grains, you need to have a ration card. Now, let's say that the ration card was issued in Bihar. Person is now living in the Delhi. Can he get the food? No. Why? Because his ration card is of Bihar. You need to have the ration card of that particular state only. So for removing this particular thing, there was the one nation one ration card scheme. Fine, you have let's say the person is having ration card of another state, he will still be able to get the food grains. Now this particular scheme has been expedited after coming or after of this particular crisis that has come. Then the next problem, the next scheme that government announced was the affordable rental housing complexes. So it was seen that the migrant people, they also face the problem of accommodation, so for them the affordable rental housing scheme was announced. Then the e-shram portal. Now, e-shram portal was a kind of a digital portal where the migrants can register themselves, okay, so that any government aid is to be provided to them, they can be identified from them. Suppose in future some problem comes, so from this particular database, from this particular information, the government can reach them. Okay, moreover, the government also began to draft a migration policy also, so that the migration related challenges, how they can be dealt in a better way. So all these were the responses that were taken by the government to solve this migration crisis. Now guys, it has also been provided that even though government has done, but repeated surveys provide this thing that still the migrant household incomes are lower than the pre-pandemic level. Still their conditions have not been improved. We should not forget that the migrants, they are very critical in many of the sectors. For example, they are critical for manufacturing sectors, construction sector, hospitality, logistics, commercial agriculture. These sectors cannot be sustained without the migrant workforce that are coming from much of the states, but still we are not giving them the importance. Now, the article provides that there are the structural problems as why the migrants in India face these issues. Now, the first problem has been provided is that basically migration is a highly politicized phenomena in India. I'll explain this thing. It has been provided that the destination states, now the destination states are the states which are receiving the large number of migrants. For example, the Maharashtra, it sees that large number of migrants from the Uttar Pradesh and Bihar, they go to Maharashtra. So Maharashtra is a destination state. Now the destination state has seen the tension between the economic needs as well as the political needs. Economic needs, see, the state needs the migrant because these migrants will be the ones who will be fueling their industries. So economic need is that the migrants are needed, but at the same time the political needs are there. Now the political needs, the politics, they, or the political parties, they spread the nativist politics. What these political parties are doing, they are creating the discontent into the people. They say that you are not getting the job. Why? Because the outside migrants have come in your state and they have taken your job. So the political needs and economic needs, they are pitted against each other. Economically you need the migrant, but the politically you are showing them the culprits also. So because of this thing, the migrants, they have been in a kind of a difficult situation. Now the sending states, for example the Uttar Pradesh and Bihar, the sending states, they are motivated to serve their own people because they vote in their source villages. Is it clear or not? They also want to appease them, but in this particular capacity, how to give the adequate response, it has always been a challenge. There has been a fragmented policy response to the internal migration from the state specific internal migration. Now suppose guys, now when we talk about the internal migration could be of two types. It could be interstate and it could be the intrastate migration. Interstate migration happens from one state to another state, and intrastate is happening within the state. Now when we talk about the internal migration, on that the policy matters have not been very much clear. Okay, how to deal with this migration problem, it has not been there up till now. There has been a sedentary bias. Sedentary bias means that we have not taken any action. Inaction is simply a very big problem. Second problem that is coming here is that, see, when we talk about the migrants, okay, how to identify migrant, it happens to be a very big problem. Now basically within the migrant, two groups are there. There are the unorganized workers and the urban poors. Okay, so the migrant, unorganized workers, urban poors, they all have been mixed within each other. Now e-shram portal was started, and onto this e-shram portal the database of the migrants were to be uploaded. This e-shram portal had registered large number of unorganized workers, but how we find that all the unorganized workers that have been listed on e-shram portal, among them how many are actually the migrants. Okay, so distinguishing the migrant from the unorganized, distinguishing them from the urban poor happens to be a very big challenge. It is a very fluid category. In this category the migrant are there, urban poors are there, unorganized workers are there. So it is happens now. So this is a very big category, and actually how to identify specific specifically one part, that is the migrants, it is a very big problem. Okay, then the next thing that has been there is that basically up till now the official data sets, they have not been able to actually capture the extent of migration in India. The data sets have simply failed. Okay, there are large number of migrants who have not been accounted under any kind of scheme. Now what could be the way ahead? Now way ahead in this particular direction is that, first of all guys, we need to specifically come out with the schemes which can track the migrants and can generate the real time data, fine, with respect to the number of migrants that are there, the welfare schemes that are there for the migrant, and what is the extent how these welfare schemes are reaching to these migrants. We need to have very clear data sets for such kind of things. In this particular direction, we have example of Maharashtra. So Maharashtra's migration tracking system is there. Now this Maharashtra's migration tracking system, it focuses on to the women and children. Okay, it focuses onto the women and the children. It has been started into the 5 districts, and it is capturing the real time information about the migrant people. This is a good thing, we can implement it. On to the same lines, there is also the Chhattisgarh's state migrant worker policy, which registers the migrant workers at their source and tracks them wherever they are going. Okay, first the migrants are getting registered and then they are being tracked. So a real time information about the migrants is being updated even in Chhattisgarh as well as in Maharashtra. Then the next thing is that, see, there have been the multi-sectoral approaches. Okay, different departments, different ministries are catering to the sum of the migrant needs. What we need to have a strategic convergence, different schemes for the migrant which are being taken by the different ministries, different department. They are needed to be brought together under a convergence model. In this particular direction, there is Odisha's example. Odisha's planning and convergence department, it is one department which is just working to go on for convergence, to bring the schemes together. So we need to learn from the Odisha's planning and convergence department also. After that, the Niti Aayog is also working on its draft policy on migrant workers. It is a very good thing. We can take inspiration from that also. Now this is guys all the points that are covered in this particular article, and now we'll move to the next article. Now this particular article, better early than late, it talks about the autism, that how the autism needs to be identified early into a child before it's on it should be identified early so that the effective remedial measures can be taken. This particular one issue could be important for GS paper number 2, child related issues, children related issues. Okay, GS2, children related issues. Now first of all guys, when we talk about the autism, okay, or the autism spectrum disorder, it is a complicated condition where the child has the problem with the communication as well as in the behavior. Now when we talk about the autism, okay, it is a minor problem or it is a kind of a small disability, but still it needs a full-time care in the specialized facilities for the child. First of all guys, let's understand that when we talk about the autism, what is the autism, it is a physical disability which is evident from birth. Autism, it is a sorry when we talk about the autism, it is a kind of a intellectual it is a kind of an intellectual disability. The children with the autism, they have problems. For example, their speech development will be delayed. Now these children, they might not be able to form the intimate relations with the other people. Okay, they will have the sleeping problems. Okay, they will have the hyperactivity. Okay, they might not be basically they might prefer to play alone. The socialization will not be very much effective. When we talk about the autism related problems, okay, the people with the autism, okay, their skills might develop unevenly. Fine, these children, okay, they have trouble in the communication, but at the same time they might be unusually good at some other subject. For example, they might be very good in art, music, mathematics, memory, but in other arenas their skills might not be properly developed. So the autism, it is a condition of intellect it is the condition where intellectually a person's growth is not on par with the other children, in some arenas they will be exceptionally good, but in some another arenas, for example in communication, for example in social behavior, they might not be fully on par with the normal children. This is the autism. It has been provided that basically, first of all, whenever the autism is there, we need to identify that, we need to assess, and then the prolonged therapeutic approach needs to be taken up. Okay, if we do the intervention between the 0 to 3 age group, it is called as early intervention, and early intervention is very much important because it can give a lot of result. Now the physical disabilities, they can be seen just from the birth, but the intellectual disabilities, they take time to manifest. Okay, and by the time they are manifested, a child is a little bit older, and then the intervention might take much more time. So it has been provided that the autism, if it is taken in account earlier and if early intervention is done, it can bring a lot of result. Now guys, it has been provided that basically it has been provided that into the early age, let's say into the age of 0 to 3 years, we can take the advantage of the neural plasticity. Now what is this neural plasticity? Into the age of 0 to 3 years, the brain can be molded very easily, the brain is very active in this time. So by taking the advantage of the neural plasticity, the brain can be molded in such a way that the autism and autism related disorders can be rectified. Okay, the article says that we are not saying that it is not be able, the autism cannot be rectified later words, or we cannot turn attention onto it, we can do it, but the interventions will take much more time if it is being done after the age of 3 years. So it has been said that first of all, the parents, they need to see certain signs of the autism into the children. In this thing, the parents need to be very mindful on certain things. Number one, whether the child is smiling them or not. Sometimes the child does not smile back, okay, or does not return the smile of the parent. This is a sign of autism. Second, if the child avoids the eye contact, it is a sign of autism. Thirdly, if the child neither uses gestures nor imitates the actions, okay, so it is also an autism signs. Then if the child shows no interest in playing with other child, does not share any his or her interest with the parents, okay, it seems attached to the objects rather than the people, fine, looks, loves gazing at moving objects, lost in thought for long period of times, all these are the signs of autism. So first of all, the parents need to be very mindful about them. Now it has been provided that the challenges in dealing with the autism has been there, because number one, the parents are ignorant, they don't know that these signs are the signs of autism. Second, there is no willingness to accept the facts. Okay, the parents think that no, their child cannot have such condition, so they don't accept these facts. Third, there is a social stigma that if they will take some special assistance in this direction, the society, there is a taboo attached with the basically intellectual limitations. Okay, now integrated approach is needed. Number one is that the moment these particular signals, okay, or the signs which we have discussed are observed by the parent need to approach a pediatrician. Okay, then because the pediatrician can pick these particular red flags as early as 18 months of into the 18 months of the development of child. It has been provided that once these particular signs have been seen, a team comprising of the occupational therapist, special educator, speech therapist, physiotherapist, okay, all needs to do the respective intervention as how the child can be treated for the autism. It has been provided that a plan of action should be put into the place, and the mix of therapy and special education should be provided to the child so that the manifestation of autism can be minimized. Fine, it has been provided that basically it has been provided that into the long term, if such kind of interventions will be taken up into the early part of the life, fine, the autism led limitations can be minimized to the negligible extent. So this is something that has been discussed in this particular article. So that is all about it, and now we'll move to the next article. Now this particular article, it talks, first of all, let's read the heading. IPCC report may spell death knell for the coal based units. So guys, what had happened, the IPCC's third report has just been released. So first of all, by the way, this article will be important for our GS paper number 3, environment and ecology. Okay, now first of all guys, when we talk about the IPCC stands for the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, and the IPCC from time to time releases its report with respect to the climate change that is happening. Now IPCC first of all does its own research. It relies on to the scientific researches submitted by the scientists around the world. Now what had happened, the IPCC working group 3, okay, has released its report. Earlier in our newspaper analysis, we have seen the report by working group 1 as well as working group 2. Now the working group three's report has been published. Now this particular report, it is the part of the IPCC 6th assessment report. IPCC 6th assessment report. So guys, the 6th assessment report is that now the reports are coming since 2021. Okay, this particular year also this particular report has come. The second part came few days back. Now guys, in total one more report will also be coming into the month of September. So in total 4 reports are released. This is the third report that has now come. Now what this particular report is talking about, this report is providing the solutions as what we need to do in order to minimize the damages that will be coming by the climate change. Now this particular report, the IPCC 6th report part 3, it has provided that first of all the coal fired power plants, which are not having the technology to capture and store carbon, the coal fired power plants not having the technology to capture and to store the carbon, they are needed to be shut down by 2050 if the world aspire to limit the global temperature rise to 1.5 degrees Celsius. If the temperature rise needs to be less than 1.5 degrees Celsius, we need to shut down these coal fired power plants if they are not having the carbon sequestration technology. Now what is the condition in India? According to the Central Electricity Authority CEA, in India we have 211 gigawatt of coal fired power plants who are there. Fine, around 10% of it is nearly around 10% of the global capacity. So a lot of energy we are getting from the coal fired power plants. Apart from these 31 gigawatt of coal fired power plants, they are being constructed, and 24 gigawatt are in the pre-construction phase. Okay, so already a lot of coal fired plants are working, they are also into the construction phase. Now guys, it has been provided that none of these existing coal fired power plants who are under construction, they are having the carbon storage facilities. So obviously they are needed to either be upgraded or they should be shut down if we want to reach the IPCC's goal. Then guys, the next thing that has been provided is that if you need to limit the temperature to 1.5 degrees Celsius, okay, the global greenhouse gas emissions, gas emissions are there, they need to peak before 2025. The emissions need to peak before 2025, and after that we need to go for the reduction of the emission, and by 2030 at least 43% reduction needs to be there. Only then we can achieve the targets of the Paris Climate Agreement. By the way, if you don't know, in the Paris Climate Agreement, which was signed in 2015, we had provided this thing that we will try to limit the temperature rise to 2 degrees Celsius, and if possible in best case to 1.5 degrees Celsius. So if you want to reach those particular targets, you first of all needs to peak your emissions by 2025, and after that by 2030 43% reduction needs to be there. Next thing that has been provided, that for 1.5 degrees Celsius temperature rise, it means that the net zero or carbon neutrality is to be achieved by 2050. Okay, and if the 2 degrees Celsius temperature rise target is there, then the carbon neutrality is to be achieved by 2070. Is it clear? So this is something that has been provided. Now guys, India had adhered to the carbon neutrality, but our date of adherence is 2070. Further, this article provides that if this climate change targets are to be met, then a lot of technology transfer, a lot of financial support are to be provided to the developing countries by the developed countries. So this is all which has been provided in this particular article. Now guys, we'll move to the next article. No need for laws to enforce the duties on citizens. Now, what this particular article is all about, guys, just I'll tell you very briefly. See, there is a petition that has been filed in the Supreme Court. There has been the petition that has been filed in the Supreme Court. Now, what is this particular petition? Now, in the petition, one of a person who had filed the petition, he says that, see, we have the fundamental duties. Now, the fundamental duties by the very nature are non-justiciable. Okay. Now, it is being said that actually by a very clear law, we need to implement all these fundamental duties. So bring a law to implement the fundamental duties. This is a petition that has been went into the Supreme Court. Now this particular petition has been replied by the Attorney General. The petition has been replied by the Attorney General. First of all, guys, understand certain points I want to tell. That when we talk about the fundamental duties, originally the fundamental duties were not into the constitution. Clear? The fundamental duties have been added after the 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act. Today we have the 11 fundamental duties. Originally there were the 10 fundamental duties. The 11th fundamental duty, that is the Article 51A subclause K, okay, was added in the 86th Constitutional Amendment Act. Now these fundamental duties as they are there, fine, after they were actually instituted, what happened, there was the Verma committee, okay, on the fundamental duties that came in 1999. Now this Verma committee provided that, see, already though the fundamental duties were not justiciable, but there are certain laws which are directly or indirectly helping in the fulfillment of the one or the second fundamental duty. For example, there is a fundamental duty that no person can disrespect the national flag or the Constitution of India. To implement this particular fundamental duty, already there is a law, that is the national there is also law, that is the Prevention of the Insults of National Honors Act 1971, which provides that nobody can insult the national flag, Constitution of India, national anthem. So this particular fundamental duty is being filled by this particular law. Then for example, basically it has been provided that basically a person basically then there is the Protection of the Civil Rights Act. It provides for the punishment in case of any offense related to the caste or the religion. Okay, so basically there are the laws which are giving the spirit of one or the other fundamental duty. Now guys, there was one more judgment also of the Supreme Court that was there, that is the Rangnath Mishra judgment of 2003. Into the Rangnath Mishra judgment of 2003, the Supreme Court provided that government should not only need to bring the law for the implementation of fundamental duty, but we also need to sensitize the people about the fundamental duty. Fine, we need to put the social sanctions also. People should be made aware about these fundamental duty. It was said into the Rangnath Mishra judgment. Okay, so we need to sensitize people, we need to aware people. Now, basically this particular article, now guys, into the article, the petition I told you has been made that the fundamental duties need to be made applicable by the law. Now in this what has happened, the Attorney General has replied that this particular petition is misplaced. This, he had said that the Department of Justice so it has been provided that the Department of Justice website can clearly show the tremendous amount of work that government has already done. Government has already implemented large number of laws. Government has already implemented a lot of schemes under which the people are getting sensitized. So this particular petition is misplaced. Okay, so this is guys all the thing that has happened in this particular article. Now we'll move to the next article. Now, the plea in Supreme Court on gender bias in the Hindu inheritance law. So we have seen that now there are the demands that are coming for the uniform civil code. It is being said that the minorities, okay, in their civil laws, many a times the women are discriminated. So uniform civil code, that is a common civil law for all the communities, it is needed to be brought now. It was promised in the article number 44 of the Indian Constitution also. So uniform civil code is to be brought. Now guys, as this particular thing is going on, fine, a petition has been filed in Supreme Court. It has been said that even into the Hindu inheritance law, there are the gender biases. How the gender biases are there? It has been said that in the matters of inheritance, the male are preferred more. Now just one example has been given in this particular article. For example guys, suppose there is the husband, there is the wife. Now suppose the suppose the husband has died and the property of the husband got transferred to the wife. Now suppose the wife also dies after some time and the wife has not left any will. Now this particular property from the wife will not go to the parents of the wife. it will not go to the parents of the wife. Let's say there is no here, there is no will. Fine, where the property will go? Property will not go from wife to the parents of the wife, rather the property will go to the brothers of the husband. Okay, this is a kind of an issue that has come. Why the women has been discriminated? Clear. So such kind of provisions are there into the Hindu inheritance law, and it shows a kind of a gender biasness. Fine. So this is a kind of a petition that has been filed. Now guys, when I talk about the inheritance laws are actually very very complicated. Is it clear? There are many of the conditions, okay, many of basically conditions are there, many of the issues are there that are in between. You don't need to go into those particular technicalities for your sake of your examination. In UPSC we are not required to go into the legislative details, legislative, okay, issues. Fine, just you need to understand that there are certain challenges that are coming even into the inheritance. Clear. Now guys, first of all, when we talk about the inheritance, first of all, just into the last year, that is the 2020, there was the Rakesh Sharma versus Vinita Sharma judgment that was there. Before the Rakesh Sharma versus Vinita Sharma judgment, fine, the inheritance of the women onto the ancestral property, onto the property, was very much disputed. In the Rakesh Sharma versus Vinita Sharma judgment, this particular inheritance was clarified. It was provided that once a daughter, always a daughter. Daughter had the right onto the property of the parents. Okay. Now, before that also, basically in 2005, we had came out with an amendment into the Hindu Inheritance Act, where it has been provided that onto the property of the parents, both the daughter and the son has the equal rights. But still there are certain gender biases into the Hindu inheritance law in some other provisions. Okay, so for that particular matter, the Supreme Court, the petition has been filed. Okay, but you don't need to go too much into the detail, because not that much important for our examination, so much of the critical scrutiny. So that is all guys about this particular article, and with this we come to an end to the today's newspaper analysis. So that is all for today. I hope that you have understood it all. Thank